Can I be heard is the question. That is the question. Can I? Alrighty, that's not bad delay. One. Okay, about 5 second delay. That's Huh. Oh. Oh, really? Okay. What? Well, that changes an entire topic. I genuinely do not understand how my internet is this bad right now. I think part of it has to do with the fact that I got a thing I gotta do. Which is called an update to Windows. Got a Windows update that I have queued. Yada yada. So yeah. So I gotta say, I don't know why the internet just went and why it's still going poop. I am assuming part of that has to do with my need to update Windows though. Hopefully that won't cause any issues. So yeah, just sitting around, getting ready for the stream. We got some stuff, and boy, do we have some stuff. Oh, thank you, college football playoff, because you're here to save my day. It's gonna be interesting when we get to that, which is early, by the way. I'm saving college baseball for the end. You know what? No, I'm going to open with it. Because... Are you kidding me with this internet? Why is it being as consistent as... Seriously, it's being so inconsistent right now. Like, I'm dropping more frames than I did when I was, like, on Tuesday of last week. Which is bad. So, like... I wonder who's here. Almost. No, I'm not gonna get copywritten. Yeah, I'm not gonna get copywritten because I've got two freaking stupid Regera songs stuck in my head, and also you can probably hear that on there. Yeah. Yeah. We will start the proceedings of the podcasting and the everything at, well, in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Still live. I don't know why I did that either. Frankly, don't question it. I'm just mad about the dropped frames, because frankly I thought I was going to get better internet, but turns out I'm not going to, and that's probably because, again, I need to update Windows. But guess when I got the Windows update notification? Like about an hour beforehand, and so that means it's going to take me like 87 hours to update it. So like the moment I'm done streaming, I got to do that, which is always the fun thing to do. I mean, then again, I don't know if y'all can see it. Yes, it is back. Seriously. We got a minute till. Got some stuff to talk about. I'm actually going to start with the college baseball, mainly because I feel like that needs to get done quickly, because I don't have as much to say on it, and because that's the most timely news. Then we'll get into the NFL stuff, which actually requires me to do things and talk about stuff, which is going to be fun. But yeah, well, it is 7 o'clock, and that means, let's get back into it. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Schluter, and welcome to episode, 15? This better be 15. I better not have screwed up the numbering. 15 of Goal to Go Live. We were off last week because the internet that I had was terrible. And, yeah, that's clearly changed now, based on my OBS statistics of me dropping frames. Approximately 27% of them, which is around the number we were getting on Tuesday of last week, when we were talking about college baseball. So tonight, what do we have on the docket? Well, we've got college baseball talk. I literally just got a tweet that I saw, and it was like completely negating everything. However, that I was going to talk about, but it doesn't. You'll see. That's for the last part of it. But we'll be talking the super regionals, recapping the regionals, what happened in them, the stuffs. And then we'll talk some NFL news, and then some college football news that just came up today. It shall be interesting to see where things go. To begin with, the super regionals are beginning soon. Okay, look, I get it, fire department. You gotta do your jobs. Do you have to be so loud? No? Okay, fine then. But let's get through to what happened in the regionals. Well, you see, a bunch of stuff. And we'll get to what LSU did, because they aren't done yet, making my life very stressful. But we'll start by recapping what each team that made the Supers did. And we'll do it grouped by Super Regional. Starting with the Fayetteville Super Regional being held on grass. I actually looked into every single team's turf, because that changes things. And, well, it's being held on grass. At number 1, Arkansas. Arkansas came in to the tournament, the top seed, and they had a scare at one point, and then they didn't. They started off their tournament by beating NJIT 13-8. Now, NJIT actually moved, when they went into the losers bracket, they won. They beat Northeastern, eliminated them, and that's their first Division I tournament win in any team sport. So that's a big thing that I didn't even think about. Big one for them. But then Arkansas moved on. They faced Nebraska. They beat them 5-1. Then in the regional final, the first game went to Nebraska 5-3. Then they were all knotted up 2-2. It was the 8th inning. And then Nebraska decided to kill themselves by walking the bases loaded, walking a guy, and then allowing them to score 3 runs. Now, let me tell you about Kevin Kopps. You cannot stop the Kopps. Because he's still on fire. He won the regional MVP. Yeah, he didn't allow I think he allowed like 1 or 2 earned runs. I didn't exactly pull up his statistics because, frankly, the words unstoppable were just flashing on the screen every time I tried to do it. You do not trying to hit on Kevin Kopps is somewhat of a joke at this point, because he doesn't allow you to. But who will Arkansas be facing, you might ask? Well, they're facing NC State. Now, NC State came into the Ruston Regional, the 2 seed. They cruised. They cruised. After losing 1-0 in the ACC Championship, they cruised their way through this regional. They beat Alabama, the 3rd seed, 8-1. They then took out the 1 seed, Louisiana Tech, 16 overall, 8-3, and then they eliminated them in the regional final, 14-7. Devontae Brown was their regional MVP. That 14 runs, by the way, is the most in NC State history for a regional final game. So, big for them. Arkansas is going to win this, aren't they? Yeah, okay, fine. That's kind of a given at this point. We move on now to the Nashville Super Regional. This one's being held on AstroTurf. I'm still shocked that they actually use AstroTurf. Like, it's not old AstroTurf, which was a carpet. Like, I'm sorry, do not call that grass. That was a carpet. That was a carpet they were trying to use. This is new. This is grass-like. Like something people could walk on. Seriously, how have I dropped a third of the frame? I need to stop looking at the dropped frames counter. Okay, that's done. So yeah, Vanderbilt, they won their regional. They beat Presbyterian 10-0. That was the 4 seed. They had to sweat out their games against Georgia Tech, though. Georgia Tech nearly came back to beat them in the top of the 9th. But Vandy shut them down. They scored 2 runs, but it wasn't enough to beat Vandy in the second game. So they beat Georgia Tech 4-3, and then they finally eliminated Georgia Tech in an 11-inning game, 14-11. Dominic Keegan was actually named the regional MVP. He's a player that isn't a pitcher. They still have 2 guys. Their pitchers are so good. Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, they're co-finalists. They're finalists for the Golden Spikes Award, which is given to the best player in all of college baseball. And they have 2 pitchers that are finalists for it. That's insane. Most teams don't have a guy. They have it doesn't make sense with this team to be so good. Then there's East Carolina, which is a team I have not seen a single game of because trying to watch ESPN3 is impossible. But East Carolina, they got their way through it. They beat number 4 4th seeded Norfolk State 8-5. Then they beat Charlotte 7-5. That was the 2. Then they eliminated Maryland. That was the 3, 9-6. Their pitcher Matt Bridges was the regional MVP. He appeared in all 3 of those games. He picked up 2 saves. He had 0 runs or walks allowed, and he struck out 6 guys. Did a damn good job. They still had great batting. But Vanderbilt's better than them, let's be honest here. I would be very shocked to see East Carolina make it past them, though I wouldn't put it past ECU to bring it to a 3rd game. But we will definitely see. Then we got the Lubbock Super Regional. It's being held on field turf at Texas Tech. Texas Tech comes in as the 8th seed. They cruised through their regional. They beat Army 6-3. They beat North Carolina 7-2. Then they eliminated UCLA 8-2. Kurt Wilson was their regional MVP, but I gotta say, Jace Jung, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Jung. It could be anything at this point. It could be, but we will never find out because we don't watch broadcasts, do we? And he's still balling. Like, he picked up a few more RBIs because he's balling. And then you got Stanford. Now, Stanford had to sweat it out a little bit because of, UC Irvine. Now, they beat North Dakota State 9-1 in the opener. Pretty much an easy one. Then they beat UC Irvine 12-4. But then UC Irvine beat them in the first game of the regional finals 8-4. But they eliminated UC Irvine 11-8 in the second game of the regional final. You want to talk about a great player for them? Oh, hello. We are talking the baseball, which is actually about to get to the funny in the baseball. This guy, Tim Tawa for Stanford, he was the regional MVP. He had 10 hits, 8 RBIs, and 7 runs scored. Dude is, that's really good. Jeez. Oh, the playoffs? Which playoffs? baseballs or the college playoffs? This is getting the college football or the baseball, because there's some football stuff that happened today about it being potentially expanded to 12, which we'll get to. Bat, ball, or hand egg? Yes. Yes, so this is the bat ball. So yeah. Anyway, to the Tucson Super Regional, we're talking about Arizona real quick. Now, Arizona came in as a high-scoring team, and you'll hear about the highest-scoring team that broke my brain. Oh, the football? We're going to get to that soon. Once I'm done this, going to be quick. Then we'll get to the college football playoff expansion, because, oh boy, is it a really cool thing that isn't happening for another 3 years. Or 4 years. Yeah, it's 4 years away, by the way, from even happening because of contracts. I'll get into that. It is not my fault that I am dropping frames, really poorly, because I need to update Windows, but I only got the notification to update Windows about 30 minutes before the stream started, and I know how long that takes. So I'm kinda doomed. Yeah. So I'm in a bit of a bind. The delay is not good. It's usually not this bad. It's usually a tad better, but Windows decided to spring a little bit of a delay on me. A little bit of an update on me. So, it's fine. Yeah. Anyway, Tucson Super Regional, Arizona. They came in, they did some cool stuff. They beat Grand Canyon 12-6. They beat UCSB 4-0. Yes. And then they beat UCSB again 5-2. Their pitcher, Garrett Irvin, he was the regional MVP. In that second game, he threw a complete game shutout, which is really tough to do. He also had 10 strikeouts and 0 walks. So, pretty good. They will be playing Ole Miss. Oh, by the way, this is on grass. Now, Ole Miss beat Southeast Missouri State 6-3. I need to explain to y'all what happened to Southeast Missouri State in the next game. They lost 21-0. Yeah. Southern Miss beat Southeast Missouri State 21-0. What happened? It's a 4. It happens. But Ole Miss then played Florida State. They beat Florida State 4-3. Then, in their 2 games against Southern Miss, they lost the first one 10-7. Then they eliminated Southern Miss 12-9. Now, if you haven't heard the story yet, there's this guy named Tim Elko. He's the regional MVP. He hit 2 grand slams in the tournament. This man doesn't have ACL. This man had, no ACLs. To put that into perspective, that's not good. But he just hits dingers. ACLs are for suckers. This dude had, at one point, they walked him to make sure he couldn't score. Which, he's got no ACLs. This is really, come on. But yeah, that's a thing. Now on to the Austin Super Regional, where there was a major bit of history. Now, this being held in Texas, at Texas, on their turf field. Texas just cruised through their regional, never even coming close to losing. They beat Southern 11-0. They beat Arizona State 10-3. Then they eliminated the greatest feel-good story of the tournament, Fairfield 12-2. Fairfield ends the season 30. I'm doing the numbers in my head real quick because they came in 37-3. And then they 30-something and 5. 39-5. They ended 39-5, which is insanely good. For Texas, first baseman Zach Zubia was the MVP. He went 5 of 14 for 6 RBIs in the regional, so overall pretty good. But the biggest surprise of this tournament was South Florida, the winners of the Gainesville Regional. They were the 4 seed in the Gainesville Regional. Let me put this into perspective. So, the Super Regionals didn't exist until 1999. Since then, there have been... hold on. Somebody do the numbers, please. God, this is going to hurt me. There have been, if I recall, 22. So 22 times 16. I'll do the numbers real quick. I got the maths. $352 teams to have the moniker of the 4 seed. Of those 352 teams, only 7 of them have ever won a regional. South Florida is the 7th to ever do it. Yep. They join the ranks of Missouri in 2006, Fresno State in 2008. That 2008 Fresno State team, by the way, they won the whole tournament. They won the national championship. They're the only 4 seed to ever do it. 2012 Stony Brook, the only other team to ever make the College World Series as a 4 seed. No, they didn't beat LSU in the Supers. Don't talk about that. This isn't even the first time that a team's won the Gainesville Regional as a 4 seed, as Charleston did it in 2014. In 2015, VCU won the Dallas Regional, and then in 2017, Davidson won the Chapel Hill Regional. So a 4 seed... You know what? I can actually easily make this. See, if I need to answer a quick question, I can do it in the chat. See, that's called thinking ahead. Seriously, I have dropped over a third of the frames. This is terrible. Oh, well, whatever. So yeah, South Florida, they did it. By the way, South Florida, yes, should be noted that, so they started by beating Florida 5-3. Florida got double eliminated, and they lost the second game 19-1. That's the largest, defeat ever handed to an SEC team in the tournament's history, ever. Since the 40s, no SEC team has ever lost by that many runs. Florida lost to South Alabama, which isn't exactly a great thing to do, because that was a 3 seed, which is only a little bit above a 4. By the way, South Florida was not supposed to be here at all. They came in 6th place in the American Conference, which is the same conference as one of the regional hosts. It's a conference that's only supposed to have 1 bid. South Florida ran the table and won the whole tournament. They were picked to finish dead last in that conference at the start of the season. They finished 3rd to last, so that's a bit of an improvement, but they made the Super Regional. They beat Florida. They beat Miami 10-2. They lost to South Alabama 4-0 in the first game. Then they eliminated South Alabama 6-4. Now, should be noted, 4 versus 3 regional finals are very rare. There are only 3 other examples of them. This was the first one in which the 4 was the team without a loss. And it's the first time that a 4's ever beaten a 3 in a regional final. The only other times this has happened was when number 3 Arkansas beat number 4 Oral Roberts in the 0-2 Wichita regional final, when Dallas Baptist beat Oral Roberts. Okay, Oral Roberts comes up twice here. It's kind of weird. 3 beats 4 there in 2011, and then in 2016, East Carolina beat William and Mary. This is the first time a 4 has ever beaten a 3 in a regional final. It's really historic. And it's also the program's first ever super regional. So, yeah, it's pretty good. Jake Sullivan was the regional MVP. He was 5 of 15. He had 2 RBIs. He scored 4 runs. If South Florida makes the College World Series, I'm going to lose my mind. Because frankly, they are just... Texas is too dominant. Texas has the best pitching staff by far. The next one is the weirdest regional. It's at a neutral site because they had predetermined everything, and then these teams decided, how about we ruin your plans, lol. So it's the Columbia Super Regional, held on a grass field in Columbia, South Carolina, hosted by the University of South Carolina, the team that didn't make this. No, who made it instead? Well, the 2 seed in the Fort Worth Regional, Dallas Baptist. They started out with a win over Oregon State, 6-5. They then beat the top seed in that regional, TCU, 8-6. Then, in the regional finals, they started with a loss to Oregon State, 5-4 on a walk-off solo home run. Then they eliminated Oregon State 8-5. In that final game, they trailed 5-zip after... They trailed 5-zip after 5 innings, and then they hit 3 home runs in 3 separate innings. One of those guys to hit a home run was the regional MVP. His name is Ryan Robleski. He had a hit in every single game, and he homered in the final 2. So he's going to be a big factor. But who are they playing, Dallas Baptist? Well, they're playing UVA, the University of Virginia, the 3 seed in the Columbia Regional. They lost to South Carolina 4-3 in the first game, and then they ran the table, eliminating any and all teams in their path, starting by eliminating Jacksonville, the worst team in this tournament, and the answer to the question, what is the worst thing I've seen all day? It was that. And then they got rightfully eliminated, 13-8. Then Virginia knocked out South Carolina 3-2. Then they beat Old Dominion 8-3, who was the 1 in this regional. It's crazy. And then they eliminated Old Dominion 4-3 in 10 innings on a walk-off solo home run, the first time they've ever had a walk-off home run in I'm assuming in the playoffs. There's no way they've never had a walk-off home run in program history. That would be crazy. Now, their regional MVP was the guy who hit that walk-off home run because... Yeah, no shit it was. His name is Devin Ortiz. He hit .333 throughout the regional. He had 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. Up next, we have I'm skipping one because that one has LSU in it, and I want to get to them last. The Starkville Super Regional. The grass of Starkville, Mississippi. Home to Mississippi State. They were the 7th seed in this whole thing nationally. They won their regional really easily. They beat Samford 8-4. They beat VCU 16-4, and then they eliminated Campbell 6-5. Cameron James was the regional MVP. He had home runs in consecutive games, and he had 7 runs batted in. Now, Notre Dame is weird. If you recall, which you may not, I pointed out a stat prior to the tournament that Notre Dame was the worst scoring team in the tournament to host and the worst scoring Power 5 team. Not the lowest scoring Power 5 team, but they were the lowest host/seed. They came in with 258 runs scored. Well, it turns out they wanted to blast that because they won their 3 games by a combined 50-10. They put up 50 runs in 3 games. They won the first game 10-zip over Central Michigan. They beat UConn 26-3. How? It's mind-blowing. 26-3. And then they won the final game over Central Michigan again, 14-7. Huh? What? just to put this into perspective, they scored 50 runs in 3 games. In the entire Columbia Regional, which took 7 games, every team, every game, if you add up the number of runs scored in all of the games, you get 61. This is a team that put up 50. That's only 11 fewer. That's insane in 3 games. Insane. How do you... No, to put this into perspective, it took them more than 8 games to score 50 runs this season. To get to the first 50-run threshold. They just multiplied the number of runs they scored by 0.2. By 1.2, excuse me. That's how math works. Yeah, it's not the most. For reference, the most ever scored in a game is 37 in the tournament. 37 is the record. Yeah. The most ever scored in a college baseball game, to our knowledge, by the way, or to the knowledge of anyone, is by Nebraska, in fact. They scored 55 runs in a 55-3 victory over Chicago State in, 1996. But finally, let's get on to the only super regional that's actually a rematch of a series from the past season. The Knoxville Super Regional on field turf. We begin with the University of Tennessee, and boy did they have an interesting start to the tournament. They were down 8-5 in their first game against Wright State. It was the bottom of the 9th. They loaded the bases, and they hit a walk-off grand slam. That's, rare, to say the least. Beat Wright State 9-8, then they beat Liberty 9-3, and then eliminated Liberty in the next game in the regional finals, 3-1. Drew Gilbert was their regional MVP. I don't know much about them from that perspective. Apparently Paul Maneri, LSU's head coach, said that their fans were nasty. And their players didn't have class the last time we played them. But who is this we I speak of? It's LSU. Yes, the team I totally expected to win this regional. Totally. I never said anything otherwise. No, I never said anything otherwise, and I never expected them to lose this regional. Clearly, it's not like I thought they'd be eliminated after the 3rd game, or maybe even, because of the first game. My God. So, LSU is the 3 seed in the Eugene Regional. They also did a UVA and ran the table. They lost to Gonzaga 3-0 in the first game. Gonzaga pitcher Alex Jacob, he's an All-American, so he's pretty good. He threw a complete game shutout. So I thought we were donezo. I thought we might win the second game, and we did. We beat Central Connecticut State. We literally lost the first game. But that's fine, because you can lose a game. You can't lose 2 games. That's the rule for college baseball. Is throughout the tournament, you can always lose once. You can't lose twice. But once, it's fine. They'll give you a little wiggle room. You just gotta make sure. Yes. Okay, that's a weird use. Shouldn't the parentheses just be around the word about and not am? Ooh. Me questioning someone's usage of this stuff. I need to get onto the football stuff because that's where things get more fun. But still, speaking of fun, we beat Central Connecticut State 6-5 in 10 innings on a walk-off single with the bases loaded, and boy, was it a very, very weak single. Dude just dove at the ball and missed. Rip. So then, we faced Gonzaga again, and we were pissed, because we hit, what was it? 2 home runs in that game? Yeah. Yes, we hit... Yeah, Gavin Dugas hit 2 home runs in that game. I'm sorry, asterisk, we need to address you? Okay, fine then. He hit 1 home run and a triple with an error. No, just, it was a triple with an error. Right. Basically what happened was Gavin Dugas decides to unload on a ball like it's someone that killed his mom. And it doesn't go over the fence, it instead hits the wall. And for some reason, the Gonzaga fielders just completely forget how to baseball. Now, Gavin Dugas is hauling ass around the bases because that's what you do in those situations. And for some reason, the Gonzaga players aren't remembering the simple rule of pick up the baseball. They somehow overrun the ball, and somehow that's the error. It did not look like an error. And Dugas is safe at home. Just with ease. Yeah, we won that game 9-4. It was easy. Then, yeah, it was an inside the park home run. There's no way. It's a stupid scorer, but whatever. It doesn't matter. We won the game 9-4. Then we beat Oregon 4-1 on the same day, by the way. It should be noted, if you're in losers, you gotta play twice on the same day. And you gotta win twice on the same day. It is tough, and, well, we did it. We did it. We just did it. It wasn't that hard. We beat Oregon 4-1. And then came the final game, which was a stressful one to say the least. So, we had, given up a bunch of, it was a close game, and it was the 8th inning. We had runners at the corners. It was a tie ball game. What they were doing was they were bringing in this infielder and throwing to, I think, second base. The pitcher's throwing to second base. And eventually, they screwed up the timing on it. And the kid balked. And we got the game-winning run on a balk. We got another hit to bring another run around, which was desperately necessary because it ended 9-8 in the top of the 9th inning. They brought home another run. It was 9-7. They brought home a run. It was 9-8. We struck him out, and it was amazing. Or we didn't strike him out. Who am I kidding? No, it was a fly ball to Dylan Cruz, and Dylan Cruz waves the crowd goodbye. And it was kind of badass. And, yeah, Gavin Dugas was the regional MVP. He had 7 hits. Okay, so I'm going to actually explain, to the best of my knowledge, what a balk truly is. So, the famous joke about it is one thing, but to explain what the point of it is another. So the point of the rule is that they don't want the pitcher making a move to try and throw off the batter and the runner in such a way that it's considered unfair. So for example, one of the simplest rules of a balk is that you can't step forward towards the batter and then throw to first base. Because you're now tricking the runner in such a way that's unfair. You've clearly started your motion towards the batter, which means that you, the runner, should be able to run. But no, he's going to try and trick you and, get you. No, you can't do that. One of the basic rules of pitching is once you start your windup, you have to finish it. If you start your windup and then you stop in the middle of it, that's a balk. That's an automatic movement of the runners. And by the way, what happens is, I think it might be different, because what was weird to me was the fact that every runner moved. Whereas in Major League Baseball, I think only the lead runner moves. So basically, a balk is just an illegal move by a pitcher that allows the runners to advance. And sometimes it's a very technical thing, and sometimes, certain pitching motions are really weird. I'd recommend looking up Johnny Cueto. Because Johnny Cueto's got the weirdest pitching motion in the history of ever, and it looks like an illegal move, but it's his natural motion of throwing. Because he does this little jerky motion before he throws the ball, but if you've seen him pitch before, it's how he pitches naturally. So that was one where he got called for a balk when he frankly shouldn't have. Because he was making a totally normal move. It's just awkward. It was awkward, but it wasn't illegal. And you have to toe a fine line there, and it's at the discretion of the home plate umpire, and it's very, very stupid and technical. There's a reason why. Yeah, there's a reason why, like, it's a joke about what a balk is, but that's a simple way of thinking about it. It's just an illegal move that confuses everyone, and it's meant to confuse everyone so you can gain an advantage that you shouldn't have. So yeah, LSU versus Tennessee. Now, I should note this. LSU's played Tennessee this year. It didn't go well. We got swept. Yeah, we got swept in 3 games. It didn't end well for us. But that was then and this is now. Perhaps we'll do better or worse. Well, we can't do worse. We cannot lose 3 straight games, because if we lose 2 games, there will not be a 3rd game. We cannot do worse than 0-3. That's impossible. We can only do better. So, bright side? Maybe we can do it? I mean, look, I just want Paul Mainieri coaching for a little bit more. Now, I was going to go into the LSU baseball coaching search. I'll just start by saying we're not getting Florida's coach. Kevin O'Sullivan, he pulled out of the coaching search, so that's good for him. He's been doing a pretty good job at Florida, except for that whole getting eliminated by a 4 seed and then a 3 seed by 18 runs, by the way. You know, the most embarrassing loss in tournament history. In your new ballpark, when you were the number 1 team coming into the season, you choked it. Let's talk about football. Isn't that the bread and butter of this podcast? It is. Football, football, football. Okay. Let's start with Julio Jones got traded. Oh, Julio, where have you gone? You've gone to the one AFC South team the Saints play this year. Why did you do this to us, Falcons? Even when you're trying to get rid of our, well, I would say our worst enemy, he hasn't scored a receiving touchdown against us since 2016. Hasn't been much of a threat, has he? I'm more scared of Calvin Ridley. I'm still more scared of Calvin Ridley. Like, the dude's got a better skill set. Also, everyone knows to key on to Julio Jones and then just throw it to Calvin Ridley, and bada boom, he's in the end zone again. Now, what was the Julio Jones trade? For those of you who've been living under a rock or just don't check Twitter for sports stuff. Seriously, if you're not using Twitter for sports, you're missing out on really important information, because a lot of stuff breaks there really fast. It's a great method for breaking sports news. It's one of the few things that Twitter is actually good at. Like, as a platform, if you want to get breaking sports news, you go for Twitter. So, what was the Julio Jones trade? So the Falcons got a 2022 second rounder and a 2023 fourth rounder. In exchange, the Titans got Julio Jones and a 2023 sixth rounder. Yeah. Now, this should have been a first round pick. This is Julio Jones we're talking about. It was a second rounder. That's inexcusable. By the way, the Titans are also taking on Jones's $15.3 million guaranteed salary. Holy crap, I have dropped 40% of the frames. This is sad. But yeah, Titans have $15.3 million in his money. They moved around a bunch of money in Tannehill's deal in order to make things work. So that's good for them, I guess. And then the Falcons now have $7.75 million in dead cap space. They can officially sign their entire draft class. Yes, the fact that they couldn't do that might explain why they were trading him. Or would it? Because you see, it wasn't just Cap that caused this trade. Cap forced the trade. But Julio's been wanting out of Atlanta for years. It's around the time he signed that extension that things came into there were talks about trading him. Around 2019, there was a chance to trade him. They didn't. And now they basically had to, and it was the right time to trade him. They found a good trade partner. Now, for the Titans, I don't think they're one piece away from winning a Super Bowl. And I don't think Julio Jones is the piece. Here's the thing. So you lose 2 guys, especially like a Jonnu Smith. I forgot who else they lost on the offense. But Julio Jones isn't going to make up for it. Now, granted, I saw the footage of him at practice today, and Julio, bro, what the hell are you doing out there? That is not supposed to happen. You're 36. He seriously looked like he was 25. Like, he looked 10 years younger. Granted, it's also practice, so, not exactly a great judge of whether or not a guy's good. But still, he was moving really well out there. Like, his shuttle drill was just like... Picture what a guy doing like a... Yeah, okay, I can't really do this through the medium of voice. But yeah. Here's the problem with the Tennessee Titans. Their defense. Or lack thereof. Okay, I get you've tried bringing in a bunch of guys. Your defense last year wasn't exactly the greatest. Your defense this year isn't exactly the greatest. Oh, look, you have Janoris Jenkins. Is that supposed to be an upgrade? I'm sorry, is Mr. Pass Interference from last year supposed to be an upgrade? I can tell you, he ain't that... He's not bad, but like... Really? Y'all are... Okay. Look, I mean, I get it. Just ride on the back of Derrick Henry. You've been doing that for 2 straight years, and it's gotten you success. It's going to be interesting to see what the Colts and Titans are doing against each other. Those are going to be 2 great games this year. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this puts the Titans yet in the position to win a Super Bowl. Because, again, the defense. Your defense is still a problem. They also lost their offensive coordinator because he's now the head coach of, let me check again. Oh, yeah, the Atlanta Falcons. Well, that's an interesting little way of getting through things. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a trade that happened, and it was cool. The Texans did a thing, or more accurately, they didn't do a thing. They didn't hold minicamp. Now, for those of you who don't know what minicamp is, it's like this... Okay, we get it, outside people. You are assholes that need to use your horns. Please do not need to tell me. If that sounded like broken English to you, it sounded like it to me. Anyway, back to the football talk. The Texans didn't hold minicamp. Minicamp is a 3-day thing, by the way. It ain't big. It's mini camp. It's mini training camp. Mini camp, get it? The name is quite accurate. And, yeah, you don't have to hold it. And their new coach, David Culley, decided, I don't need to hold this. Yeah, because clearly what he said was he thought he saw it was good from what he saw at OTAs. They didn't have anything to work on. Right, okay, you have a new head coach. You have a new staff. Your quarterback situation has more question marks than the Riddler's outfit. And you have a bunch of new players. But you got enough work through 4 weeks with good attendance that you don't need it. You don't think just a couple more days to try and iron out some kinks will help? Guys, everyone has you pegged at 0-17. Why are you trying to make that more likely? Maybe you want these guys to rest more so that they're in better shape for training camp. Okay, actually, that's a good reason. I can accept that. But you know who didn't cancel minicamp? The Packers. Although, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers got the memo, because he didn't show up. Yeah, he ain't showing up. He didn't show up to minicamp at all. And that means that he is at risk of being fined. I say at risk because the Packers can, of course, be nice and say, nah, you don't have to pay the money. And I think it's like $17,000 a day. It's not much, so it really doesn't matter. But if we're gonna talk about Aaron Rodgers, we might as well talk about what's the problem with him. So James Jones went on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and for some reason, I felt the need to subject myself to it. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I watched a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Please send your sympathies my way. where he was talking about Aaron Rodgers, and, well, one of the major gripes, he didn't mention the biggest gripe, but he said that it had nothing to do with the GM, had nothing to do with Brian Gutekunst. It had something to do, he said, with the guys that kept getting let go. So guys getting released like Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Clay Matthews, Julius Peppers, Charles Woodson. There's a long list of guys that have left well before they thought they were ready. Guys who were willing to take a pay cut to stay around. Guys who thought they were good for the locker room. Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson are great examples of this. And they were just gone before their time. And they said, like in interviews, it's like, yeah, we didn't exactly expect to be cut. We thought we could stick around. I thought our timeline was good. So could this potentially be that Aaron Rodgers is seeing all of this crap and he's like, oh God, they've eaten them. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my God. Nah, but really, like, the day he praises one of his guys and then the Packers are like, cut. They literally cut one of his teammates that he praised the day after he praised him. It's like, maybe you shouldn't have done that. That seems like a bad move. Maybe wait a little bit more, because he's praising him. He clearly likes him. And he's your star quarterback, and he's winning you games you definitely didn't deserve to win. You guys went 15-1 in spite of your defense. Because you had Aaron Rodgers, and he was playing the greatest season that a quarterback's had in the 2010s. So yeah, that's a thing. And then finally, because we're going to wrap this up because I don't want to talk about the last part, let's just say LSU had a guy in the coaching search for Paul Mainieri he's apparently not going to be called upon. He's the former head coach at Oregon State who, and I'm going to say this, in fact, I'm going to say, read at your own risk, because this thing gets a little heavy. Okay, perfect. Click this link if you want to read a story about the fact that what was his name? Pat Casey. Yeah, he's 62 and Mainieri's 63, so he's old. Also, he's been out of coaching since 2018. Also, he defended a guy who pleaded guilty to if you know your Spanish, you'll know what I mean by this, child annoyance. If you can parse what I'm trying to say there so that I don't say something worse, or if you read the article. It's a very complicated story, I will say that. I can see why he could have potentially defended having the guy on his team. By the way, because he's a pitcher, his name was Luke Heimlich. Because the guy wasn't on the team when they were in the College World Series in 2017, they didn't win at all. I will say this: LSU played Oregon State. If they had Luke Heimlich, I think they would have eliminated us, or they wouldn't have been in a position to be eliminated. It's a very messed up story. But there is something more positive. The college football playoff is going to potentially be expanding. Instead of 4 teams, we'll get 12. Oh, baby. Yeah, so first of all, let's try and temper everyone up. This isn't happening next year. This isn't happening until the college football playoffs contract expires. They have a contract with ESPN worth about $70 bajillion or something. I don't know. It's like multiple billions of dollars. That contract doesn't expire until after 2025-26. So, yeah, until then, there is no expansion coming to the playoff. But there is an expansion proposal that's going to be voted on. Like, oh, what is that? Next week? Cool. So here is the format. Do you know the old playoff format for the NFL? You know the old NFL playoff format? Where it was 6-6 in each conference? Where you had like the 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. in each conference, that old format, think of it like that for this whole thing, because it really helps you visualize how it's kind of broken down. So, basically, you know how it used to be like the top 2 seeds were 2 division winners. So you had the 2 best division winners, they would get first round byes in each conference. Well, that's how it's going to work in college football. But it's not going to be spread out like divisions are all. So, the way this format works is you have to think of it as 6 and 6. It's a 6 and 6 format. The top 6 best conference champions get an automatic bid into the to the college football playoff. And the top 6 teams that aren't also get in. But the top 4 spots are automatic buys into the quarterfinals, And those are occupied by the top 4 conference champions. To make this make sense, I'm going to go back to 2019 LSU, aka the greatest team ever assembled. That year, the college football playoff consisted of only 4 teams. But those 4 teams were 4 conference champions. And LSU was number 1, Ohio State was number 2, Clemson was number 3, Oklahoma was number 4. So, in this current format, those 4 teams would get byes. Now, who's 5th? Now, I should note this. There's this, okay, so if you're not a college football fan, this is really not going to make sense. And so, this is where things get more, like, if you know college football, these terms are going to make sense to you, and if you don't, they're not going to make sense to you. So, this doesn't guarantee spots for the Power 5 at all. Last season, for example, if you want to look at the 6 highest ranked conference champions, it was SEC champion Alabama, then it was Ohio State champion of the Big Ten, then it was Clemson champion of the ACC, then it was Oklahoma State champion of the Big 12. Those would have been the top 4. The 5th best team in terms of conference champions was Cincinnati. They were the winners of the American Conference, which is a group of 5 conference, which is the non-big timers, or also the ones that just don't have as much money. The 6th best conference champion was Coastal Carolina of the Sun Belt. The 7th you go all the way down. The 7th best conference champion wasn't even a Pac-12 school. Pac-12 is the 5th Power 5. The Power 5 conferences, for those of you who are unaware, because I really have to explain this out because not everyone here is a college football fan, and if you aren't, you'll learn eventually. You'll learn eventually, because trust me, it's a stupidly complicated mess that once you dive into it deeply enough, it's like, oh, this totally makes sense. Oh, okay, that makes sense now. And you also have to become insane for it to make sense. You basically have to go crazy and then it makes sense. That's the way it works. First you go insane, and then it makes sense. That's what I did, so. Hooray! Yeah, Power 5 is ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC. Now, what does this whole scenario look like? Well, those wildcard games between the non-top 4 teams, those are going to be held on campus sites. So, whoever's seeded 5th, they're hosting a game on campus. Whoever's seeded 6th, they're hosting a game on campus. Whoever's seeded 7th, they're hosting a game on campus. And whoever's seeded 8th, they're hosting a game on campus. Which means, theoretically, LSU could host a college football playoff game at home. I don't know about you, but I want this. Not really, though, because that would require us not to be one of the top 4 teams and thus not get a bye. Now, the way it would work going forward would be that the 4 quarterfinals, so the games between the 1 and whoever, it was like the 1 game, the 2 game, the 3 game, the 4 game, those would be held at bowl games. The semifinals would work the same way, and then the finals, the college football playoff national championship, would go to a random site, and they bid on the site, kind of like they do for the Super Bowl. So basically nothing would change at that point. Yeah. 12 teams. Be really cool. Now, some people hate this plan. These people are what I like to call dumb, or another thing I'd like to put them in is not thinking about it from the cooler perspective. So actually lame, not dumb. Lame. They're lame. They're lame, they're boring, they don't want cool things. Come on, what's so bad? I mean, they're saying it'll devalue the regular season. Okay, from 2016 to 2018, there were undefeated teams that just completely missed the playoff, while there were teams with losses that made the playoffs. Like, 0 losses is fewer than 1, therefore it's better, right? That means they had the better regular season, right? I think we can all agree that 0 is... that an undefeated season's harder to do than a 1-loss season. Oh, but you're saying that the strength of schedule is the reason why. Well, it should also be noted that in 2 of those years, 2016 and 2017, one of the teams that made it into the college football playoff failed to win their own division. They didn't even win their own division. They didn't even make the conference championship game. No, it doesn't. I did the math. It's about 3% of the teams that are eligible. It's about 3%. Just... The basketball tournament is about 19%. Now, granted, that's 68 teams. That's 68 out of 357. This is 4 out of 130. That's inexcusable. At least for 12, which I think is reasonable-ish. We can at least reason through that. And it doesn't devalue the regular season, because if you lose like 1 game, for a lot of teams, that knocks them out of it. It makes the regular season pointless then. Oh no, well now we can't compete for a championship anymore. And then when you get to these big time bowl games, you got a bunch of guys opting out and the games suck. But when you expand the playoffs, oh, well now just because we lost a game. That doesn't end our season. We can still win this thing. You guys still got to show up and put in effort. You still got to win every single game, but you're given that room to make a mistake. Because you shouldn't punish a team too hard for, look, you lost to Alabama. Yeah, it's Alabama. You weren't going to win. But you have a chance to potentially play them again and beat them. Or maybe play the team that beats Alabama for you so that you don't have to face them again. God, yeah, this is just going to get Bama in every year, but Bama's always good enough to get in, so it's going to be worth it for him. I mean, I see no problems with expanding the playoff format to get in more good teams as opposed to keeping with the crappy games we keep having. Because there hasn't been... The college football playoff's been around since 2014. There hasn't been a single year in which of the 3, there are 3 college football playoff games played every year. There's only been 1 year where 2 of them were good. Most years, they're blowout games. Most years, you're lucky to get a good game. You usually get like 1 good game a year and 2 crappy ones. With this, you got a good chance of getting some great matchups that you may not have otherwise seen. I mean, honestly, I see no problems with this. Oh my. Oh my. This will be interesting because Navy's a weird example. So Navy's weird. So if Navy wants to make this tournament, they'll most likely have to win the American Championship. They play a game the week after their conference championship because Army-Navy's in a dead week. So they'd have to play the American Championship, then the Army-Navy game, then the playoff first round, quarterfinal, semifinal, and the national championship, all after the bulk of their regular season. However, Navy's weird, so that's fine. This also doesn't give an automatic bye to Notre Dame. Good. Join a conference or die. I'm sorry, I just have a weird hatred for Notre Dame because, well, join a conference, guys. You did it last year and it went well for you. In fact, you made a ton of money off of it. Oh, I get it. Your contract with NBC is too rich. Okay, you can stay in the ACC for literally everything else. Fine. But yeah, I feel like this is a good move that's actually going to make the postseason even better. You're going to, and again, like when Barstool LSU, also known as Why Do I Even Follow You, sometimes they post some decent memes or stuff. Like, sometimes they got decent stuff in there. You have to weed through the crap, but, you know, that's true of many accounts. They posted it and said, like, whoa, just another cash grab. Oh, hi, Steeler fan. No, you didn't miss anything besides everything. Don't worry. I was like, this is an opportunity to tailgate more at LSU. So Steeler fan, for those of you who aren't, for you, the college football playoff might expand in 5 years to a 12-team format instead of the normal and crappy 4. This would be 6 conference champions in and 6 at-larges. Not 6, as in the Power 5 wouldn't get automatic bids. That's the craziest part about it. They made it so that the Power 5 wouldn't necessarily get in every year. Because, if you look back to this past year, Pac-12 wouldn't have had their conference champion in. They wouldn't. Oregon wouldn't have made it. Granted, Oregon was 3-2, and that was a whole debacle. Yep. The way it would work is you have... Okay. So, I can't believe I have to... It's okay for those of you watching this later. Lol. Let me explain it back. So, it's a 12... You remember how the NFL used to do it back when they had the perfect playoff format of 6 teams in each conference? Alright, so think back to that just to see what a 12-team format would look like, where you have those first-round byes. So, instead of it being like, you know, AFC and NFC stuff, the top 4 conference champions would be seeded 1, 2, 3, 4. They didn't say anything about how 5 through 12 would work, so that's going to be weird. The top 4 teams, though, they get a first-round bye. 5 through 12 play each other. So the 5 plays the 12, the 6 plays the 11, the 7 plays the 8. Wait. 5 plays the 11, the 7 plays the 10, the 8 plays the 9. Those games are on campuses. Those first games are played on campus. So if LSU was like a 6, we'd host here. That game would be played in Tiger Stadium. It also means that Notre Dame can never get an automatic bye. They will have to play games in order to get that far. Then, those 4 quarterfinal games would be held at bowl sites, and then the semifinals would be held at bowls, and then the final championship game, Notre Dame. We here in the join a conference or die community believe that Notre Dame should join. Army is allowed to stay independent because they're Army and they're cool. Even Navy decided to join a conference, although that is... I'm going to tell you something. Here's a fun little story. Navy, despite being in Maryland, is in the Western Division of the American Athletic Conference for recruiting purposes because they want to play every single year Texas schools and Oklahoma schools so that they can get cadets. I'm not even messing around. They did that on purpose. Navy's a weird instance because Navy, in order to make it, the American, yes. Here's what's weird. In 1 year, they played in the conference championship game and then finished their regular season. Yeah. Because the way it works now is if Navy wants to get into the playoffs, they would have to play the American Championship, then the Army-Navy game, then the quarter... Because that's where things get messy. The Army-Navy game could knock them out. Which would be insane. Yeah, Navy's been in a conference for a few years now. Only in football. Only in football, though. In everything else, they're Patriot League. Yeah. They did it for recruiting purposes. Army joined a conference in the early 2000s. They were a member of Conference USA in football. Guess what? It was for literally the same reasons. At least in terms of like who they were playing, it made sense for the same reasons. Just play those Texas schools to get cadets. Yeah, that's an interesting little factoid. Anyway, yeah. So then, like, the semifinals would work the same way. The national championship would be bid on, like, the Super Bowl. So, like, it already has been. Yeah, it is a weird tactic, to say the least. I don't know. If it works, it works. I don't really hate on them for doing it. But yeah. Here's the worst part. I actually don't have much else to say. Because, like, I think that this whole thing what this does is some people said this devalues the regular season. I got into arguments on Barstool LSU's page because people thought it was dumb, and I'm like, no, this is a great idea. You just don't like it. And it's like, think about this. You had, balls, what's his name? Kyle Pitts sit out his bowl game. Or Florida was playing a terrible team. It was playing as a terrible team in the bowl game. And they got their asses kicked. The contract won't let them do it yet. So the way it works is that they're locked in a television contract. They locked in for like maybe it's 10 years with ESPN, and it has to be 4 teams until that contract expires. Once the contract expires, they'll renegotiate and they'll expand it. It's going to be a fun renegotiation because guess what Notre Dame has to deal with? My question is this. If they hold a home game, who's going to broadcast the game? Because NBC holds exclusive rights to any Notre Dame home game. Does that game count as a Notre Dame home game, or does it count as something separate? Granted, I say this as if ABC didn't hold the rights to the Rose Bowl during the era when Fox bought the BCS rights. So, you know. But that's because, okay, that's a separate topic, but in short, the Rose Bowl has separate rights from the BCS going back to the ever, and it was a very tough compromise to try and get the Rose Bowl to even be involved. There were 2 things prior to the BCS, the Bowl Alliance and the Bowl Coalition, that both failed miserably because it didn't have the Rose Bowl. Then they got the Rose Bowl and everything was better. Oh, I'm sorry, the BCS was garbage? Yeah, it wasn't that bad. At least it wasn't a bunch of humans being stupid for 12 minutes. By the way, Steeler fan, I've been dropping more frames at my apartment than I have at my worse, crappier room. That's been fun. So yeah. Always fun to deal with that. Oh yeah. There's so much latency here. The thing is, I have an update queued for Windows that I need to do after this stream ends. So I want to get this stream over with soon. Now, since you missed everything, I'm just going to post the notes for the stream in the Discord. Which, by the way, you guys should join the Discord. I need to start posting that, actually. I need to start posting that link in the description. I'll start doing that more. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of Goal to Go Live. I'm thinking, and I might do it next week, we'll see, of trying an episode out at 8 o'clock Central, so 9 Eastern, because I don't know if that's better for people. It might be better for people to move it back an hour, because, like, more people might be able to join, plus that's when a lot of people do things. Like, a lot of people eat dinner at 7, and then faff around for a little bit, and then boom, 8 o'clock. That's Central Time for me. Your mileage may vary. But yeah. What is the hands for? Oh, that's a goodbye. I think. Yep. So that's going to do it. If you want to find me, yeah, I think that, yeah, we'll try that out. We'll see if more people come. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so that's going to do it. If you want to find me on Twitter, find me at capital BEN, capital S, capital L, capital A, capital S, PORTS. If you want to find, I don't know, things out on the internet, you can use multiple search engines. Yeah. I can't think of a way to end this. So. Oh, my internet speed went to 136 kilobits a second at the end there. That's how we're ending this. Bye-bye!